It was a cold December night in New York City, the kind of cold that seeps through jackets and settles into the bones. Times Square was alive as always, neon lights flashing, crowds moving in every direction, the sound of sirens, laughter, and street performers blending into one endless rhythm. But that night, something felt different. There was a warmth in the air that didn't come from heaters or coffee cups. It came from people. It came from music. It came from a word many Americans had never heard before, but thousands of Filipinos knew by heart: Pasko. For Filipinos, Pasko is not just Christmas. It is memory. It is family. It is faith. It is childhood mornings, parole lanterns glowing in village streets, and voices singing carols long before December 25th arrives. And on this night, Pasco had crossed oceans. It had crossed generations. It had arrived at the heart of the Western world, Times Square. Filipinos didn't come quietly. They came singing. They came smiling. They came carrying their culture with pride, turning one of the busiest places on earth into something that felt like home. Flags waved gently in the winter air, red, blue, white, and gold, standing proudly beside the stars and stripes. Some people were wrapped in thick coats, others in traditional Filipino attire layered carefully against the cold. Many held candles or phones raised high, capturing a moment they knew was historic. For years, Filipinos had been part of New York's story. Nurses, caregivers, engineers, artists, teachers, seafarers, and service workers, building lives quietly, sending money home, raising families far away from the islands they loved. They rode the subway, worked night shifts, and learned to survive in one of the toughest cities in the world. But this night was different. This night, they were not invisible. This night, they were center stage. The sound of Filipino Christmas songs filled the square. Familiar melodies echoed between skyscrapers, songs that spoke of hope, longing, and joy. Some voices cracked with emotion. Some people wiped tears from their eyes. For many, this was the first Christmas far from home. For others, it was one of many spent away from parents, siblings, and childhood friends. But standing there, surrounded by fellow Filipinos, the distance felt smaller. Pasko in the Philippines is famous for starting early, sometimes as early as September. It is the longest Christmas season in the world. It's a season filled with simbang gabi masses before sunrise, Noche Buena feasts after midnight, and streets decorated with parole lanterns symbolizing the Star of Bethlehem. Bringing that tradition to Times Square was more than celebration. It was a statement. We are here, and our culture matters. As the program unfolded, performances took over the space. Choirs sang with voices trained in churches and community halls back home. Dancers moved with grace, blending traditional Filipino steps with modern flair. Every performance told a story of islands surrounded by water, of centuries of colonization, of resilience, faith, and joy that survived it all. Non-Filipinos stopped and watched. Tourists pulled out their phones, curious and amazed. Some asked questions. Some smiled without fully understanding the words, but feeling the emotion behind them. That was the power of Pasco. You didn't need to be Filipino to feel it. You just needed to be human. Behind the celebration were months of planning, community meetings, and volunteers working after long shifts. Filipino organizations, churches, youth groups, and leaders came together to make it happen. Many of them had grown up hearing stories of sacrifice, parents leaving the Philippines to work abroad, missing birthdays and holidays so their children could have better futures. Now, those sacrifices were visible, validated under the bright lights of Times Square. For older Filipinos, the night carried deep meaning. Some remembered arriving in America decades earlier, when there were fewer Filipinos and even fewer chances to celebrate openly. Seeing Pasco honored in such a global space felt unreal. It felt like a full-circle moment. For younger Filipinos, especially those born in the U.S., it was a bridge, a connection to roots they sometimes struggled to fully understand. In that square, culture wasn't something distant. It was alive, loud, and proud. The crowd grew larger as the night went on. Laughter mixed with prayer. Some people held hands. Others FaceTimed family members back in the Philippines, turning their phone cameras toward the stage. Mothers pointed things out to their children. Fathers stood quietly, taking it all in. Friends hugged, promising to meet again soon. In a city known for its speed and indifference, time slowed down. Christmas lights reflected off wet pavement. Snow threatened but never quite fell. It didn't matter. The warmth was already there. The kind that comes from shared identity and collective memory. The kind that reminds you that no matter how far you travel, home can follow you. This was more than an event. It was representation. It was visibility. It was a declaration that Filipino culture belongs on the world stage. For too long, Filipinos have been known mainly for their labor, their willingness to work hard and stay silent. That night in Times Square challenged that image. It showed joy. It showed artistry. It showed faith. It showed pride. As the final songs played, voices joined together, not perfectly, not polished, but real. Real voices, real people, real stories. Some sang loudly, others softly. Some didn't know all the words, but hummed along anyway. And when the music ended, applause filled the square, echoing between buildings that had seen countless events. Yet something about this one felt special. People lingered even after it was over. No one wanted to leave just yet. Photos were taken. Group selfies captured faces glowing with happiness. Strangers became friends. For a moment, Times Square was no longer just New York. It was Manila. It was Cebu. It was Davao. It was every Filipino hometown rolled into one. In a world often divided by borders, languages, and politics, Pasco in Times Square reminded everyone of something simple and powerful. Culture travels with people. Traditions don't disappear just because oceans separate families. They adapt. They grow. And sometimes, they shine brighter than ever. That night, Filipinos didn't just celebrate Christmas. They reclaimed space. They honored their past. They celebrated their present. And they showed the future generations watching, both Filipino and non-Filipino, that identity is something to be carried proudly, no matter where you are. Under the brightest lights in the world, Pasco found a new home. And in doing so, Filipinos reminded New York and the world that Christmas is not just a date on the calendar. It is a feeling. It is community. It is love. And on that night, love spoke in a Filipino accent, sang Filipino songs, and filled Times Square with a warmth no winter could ever take away.